Gibbon. I am president for the Southwest Washington League of United Latin American Citizens. And on behalf of our sponsors that we have for the event tonight, our Vancouver branch of the NAACP, branch number 1139. I don't know if there's some folks from that representing. Thank you for supporting the event tonight. Latino Community Resource Group, as well as the League of Minority Voters. We want to acknowledge these guys who cared and put a lot of input to happen tonight. So thank you to those organizations. And right now we're going to get going because again we want to honor our candidates' time. Thank you for being here today. We do value that and appreciate it. And right now I want to acknowledge any existing civic leaders that are here with us. I saw Councilman Jack Berkman. Anybody else? Anyone standing up to be recognized? So, Mayor, thank you very much for being here tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly introduce you to the awesome gentleman you heard doing mic checks before. His name is Mr. Promise King, and let me tell you a quick background on him. Mr. King has served as the executive director of the League of Minority Voters since 2007. The mission of the League of Minority Voters is to empower grassroots civic engagement to minority voters through education and leadership training. Prior to his current role, Mr. King developed a strong grasp of public policy issues and communication strategies through his past career roles. These past career roles include Senior Policy Advisor for the City of Portland under Office of Commissioner Dan Salzman, Senior Policy Analyst for the Oregon State Treasury from 2000 to 2002, and also political columnist from 2002 to 2007 for the Portland Tribune newspapers. Mr. King's education background includes a BA in journalism from a fine institution in London, United College London. And ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Promise King.
Who are you really introducing? I'm sure it's not me. Because I'm just a community folks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor and privilege to welcome all of you here tonight. We're going to tell the truth. And we will have fun telling the truth. So give your hand a round of applause for being here tonight. Let me just make a disclaimer. My name is not Lester Holt or Larry King. My name is Promise King. You see, minorities around this region believe that your representation matters. They believe that if you're going to represent them, you ought to represent them. So on that note, I want to thank LULAC. Please give LULAC a round of applause. And also NAACP in Vancouver. Latino Community Resource Group. Don't worry about the League of Minority Voters. You don't have to clap your hands. If you want to, please go ahead. We're going to go right into opening remarks. And we'll start from here. We're giving you 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Did you say 2 minutes? Okay, we'll give you 2 minutes. We want to be generous here tonight. 2 minutes, tell us who you are, why you're running. Thank you.
Can everybody hear me okay? All right, my name is Eric Holtz. I'm running for the State Senate in the 18th Legislative District. And why I'm running is because it's important to me that we return integrity back to the public service, to where we have people who enter into service to represent people and not corporations, to where they listen to the people and their voices, no matter who they are. So we have equality for all people, and that their voices are heard and represented. The job of the state senator is first and foremost to listen to the people and represent their desires and needs in the Senate. And that's what I intend to do. So thank you so much for coming out, and I hope you enjoy the forum.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sam Kim. I'm running as state representative for District 17, position number 1. I'm a former U.S. Navy officer. I was commissioned reserve deputy with Clark County Sheriff's Office and 16 years on the Battleground School District Board of Directors. You know, I was laid off from Hewlett Packard Company about 6 years ago, and so I went to Las Vegas, where I was a senior IT director, and then I come back and I found the county in a total disarray. The elected officials can't talk to each other. We can't even start building the bridge. And you know, it cost county $1.7 million just because people don't like each other. And I could not, as Chief Information Officer for Clark County, just stand aside and let this waste, fraud, and abuse continue. And that's why I'm running. Given my experience, knowledge, and passion for public service, I could not let it all happen and hoping that somebody else will step up. We need quality candidates, we need quality leaders, we need statesmen that are going to have a very civil dialogue, looking at facts and figures and logic, and make sure that Clark County is set up for success. Thank you.
We went above 2 minutes, but we'll excuse you this time. Next.
My name is Justin Oberg. I'm running for the House, representing the 18th District for the position 1 seat. A little bit of background on myself. I've been a part of the Clark County community for the last 15 years. Byproduct of our schools, went to Columbia River High School, Washington State, and I'm a small business owner here in our Clark County community. I've done volunteer work with our Vancouver schools and also with the free clinic of Southwest Washington, which impressed upon me the vital and huge need we have to fix the healthcare gap when it comes to our low-income families. The reason I jumped into this race was because there are 3 issues that are very important to me that I was not being seen represented by our representative. That's fully funding education, making sure that we are maintaining our infrastructure, which includes the I-5 bridge, but also includes many of the roads all up and around my district in the 18th that unfortunately haven't been able to receive the money to receive their needed maintenance. And finally, the issue I find most important to me is affordable housing. We have a real crisis going on in our community, and we need to be doing something to relieve the huge amount of stress that is being put on our low-income families and our low-income children. So I want to thank LULAC for putting on this forum. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I look forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. That doesn't work. No?
No?
Can somebody? Okay.
All right.
Give the mic. Give him the mic.
All right.
Please. Thank you.
Well, my name is Jim Bowen. First of all, I want to thank LULAC, the NAACP, the League of Minority Voters, and LCRG, the Latino Community Resource Group. My name is Jim Moeller. I'm running for Congress. Why do I want that job? I've asked myself that question a number of times. But basically, I want to make Congress work again. And it's about relationships and about people, because we are people heavy when it comes to politics. Many people ask me, well, why? I don't do politics. So you don't have a job? So you don't have a family? Of course you do. Exactly. That's what people is about. And we know it's difficult to establish those across the aisle when you're not there. And Jamie Herrera Butler has not been there for us. She is not. She is the 6th worst absentee record in Congress. So she's almost at the top 5, which is not a good place to be. Again, my name is Jim Moeller. I'm running for Congress.
Thank you, Jim.
Can you hear me all right? I said that there. Well, good evening. My name is Annette Cleveland. I'm pleased to serve as your state senator representing the 49th Legislative District, which is right here in Vancouver, where we're all sitting this evening. And thank you. I want to say thank you to those who are sponsoring the event this evening. I'm very pleased to be here. I want to share just a brief snapshot of who I am. I was born and raised right here in Vancouver. My career spans over 30 years, and I've worked both in the public and private sector. I have worked at the Columbian newspaper. I spent over 12 years as a congressional staff person for 2 different United States senators. Went on to work for the American Cancer Society in government affairs, and worked for our Greater Vancouver Chamber of Commerce. And I currently work for Legacy Health, a nonprofit mission-driven organization here in our community. I think, though, that more importantly, the perspective that I offer and that I take with me to Olympia on your behalf is that of a daughter, a wife, a mother, and someone who every day works just like each and every one of us do to try to juggle our responsibilities, whether it's running a household, taking care of an aging parent, trying to pay the bills. And that's a perspective that I believe we need more of in Olympia. My overarching goal in running for office and in representing you in Olympia is to ensure that this community remains one of opportunity for each and every citizen. And what that means to me is, first and foremost, access to quality education, access to quality jobs, economic development, access to adequate housing, and quality health. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Alicia Topper. I'm running for the 49th Legislative District, Position 2. And I'm a native of this area and am also a Vancouver City Councilwoman who's been working hard on behalf of our citizens on issues around affordable housing. That truly was the one issue that really brought to light that I needed to go to Olympia to have the voice and the best interests of the people here in our community, our most vulnerable, who are being priced out of their homes at a rapid rate. And I know that's happening in every zip code, and I've also seen it as an employee of Vancouver Public Schools, where I work on bringing in partnerships for our students living in poverty. I myself am a first generation individual who got a college degree. I understand the struggles that it takes for families that are living paycheck to paycheck in order to make ends meet and to be able to raise their families. I want to make sure we're putting infrastructure investments in our region, including replacing the I-5 bridge, but not forgetting that public transportation is a primary transportation resource for many, many families that can't afford or don't want cars. So I also want to make sure, as an employee of Vancouver Public Schools, that we're fully and fairly funding K-12 education. And we don't forget about the 45% of our state's children who qualify for free and reduced price meals. Those kids deserve someone to have their voice and to make sure that we are putting resources into their schools. So I'm honored to be a candidate in this race, and I'm honored to see each and every one of you here today to make sure you're an informed voter. So thank you so much for all who hosted this forum. Look forward to answering questions as the evening progresses.
Thank you. Let me do a little bit of housekeeping. We have 2 minutes and our timekeeper is right here. Raise that paper right up.
Promoting our event too. But
Yeah. When she raises that paper, that means your time is up. We want to give everyone equal opportunity to speak tonight. Go ahead, Miss.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Beck. I'm running in the 49th Legislative District, Position 1. The reason that I decided to run is ultimately I want to help people. I understand that there are many people in our community facing issues with affordable housing. Many people are being priced out of their homes, priced out of apartments, looking at rent increases above 10 to 20%. People are not getting a quality education that they deserve. Another thing that I would personally like to highlight, as this is an event for minority voices and making sure that everybody in the community has a fair voice, we have only had one transgender legislator in the entire country. Being able to elect the country's second transgender legislator, the first in Washington, would be a huge step towards creating diversity in our state legislature. We would have an opinion and we would have a voice that hasn't been represented before, from issues like healthcare, where trans people are not getting what they deserve, to issues of education or even policing, where we are being killed by police officers that are supposed to be protecting us. That is issues facing everybody that has hosted this event, myself included. So I understand the minority voice, and I'm so glad to be here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Monica Stonier, and I am running for the State House Position 2 in the 49th District. I'm sitting here proudly endorsed by APACE, which is a civic engagement organization for Asian Pacific Island Americans, and I'm proudly endorsed by One America and also the Latino PAC. I think that comes as a result of work that I've done in the legislature, making sure that our state policies are working toward equitable and positive education experiences for all communities, not just those in power. So I'm looking forward to the questions that come up, because I know that they are the issues, or reflective of the issues that I care deeply about. Proud to support the Washington State DREAM Act and see that pushed into action for our students of our higher education students, and also proudly supported the Washington Voters' Rights Act, which we're hoping to continue working so that we continue to have a more equitable access to politics and elections in Washington State. Thank you to the hosts, and I look forward to the rest of the evening.
Hi, I'm Sharon Wiley, State Representative for this district. I was appointed in 2011. I am very, very proud of the work that I've done. I was a management consultant for many years, and the first year I was appointed, I saved the state $1 million by taking the bill forward that reformed our purchasing system. But the actions that I'm most proud of are the actions we've taken related to opportunity. I'm very, very proud to have participated in our Marriage Equality Act. I'm very, very proud that I've participated and supported strongly the DREAM Act. And I'm very proud that we have held the line on higher education tuition. I intend to fight further for a better tax system that will be sufficient and sustainable and more fair to everybody than the one we have. And I intend to do that by staying on the Finance Committee and taking those issues back to the people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Gillespie, and I am running for the state representative in the 18th District, Position 2. I am currently a Vancouver Public School board member. I have been for 7 years. I'm in my second term. I've lived in this region for 23 years, raised my 2 children here. I was a newspaper editor and reporter for 13 years before I retired to stay home and raise my family and start really working in our community and trying to make a difference in our schools. I'm running, and I kind of want to speak to the audience. We're here for a certain reason, so I want to kind of talk about why, from your perspective, my candidacy matters. I believe that everybody in this room is an owner of this system. You are the bosses. You're the CEOs, the CIOs. When I'm on the school board and people call me with concerns, I always tell them first, this is your system, so thank you for acting as an owner of your system. And then, importantly, I try and teach them how to advocate for themselves within the system. So I want to hear everyone's voice, because that is the way our society will work best. It's in our best economic interest, it's in our best wellness interest. Every way that you could ask, what's the best way to do things? It's to honor each and every person and listen carefully to their experience and try to, when you make policy, really think about what's best for everybody. I don't want to see neighbors made into enemies, government making winners and losers. This is not what I'm about. So my plan is to go up to Olympia, talk about equity, talk about fairness, and make some changes in our system, because we are right now creating winners and losers, and it's not okay with me. So I fight for people on the school board. I'm going to fight for everybody in the 18th and for Southwest Washington when I get up to Olympia. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Carmen and Promise, thank you. And everyone in the room, thanks for taking some time out of your evening to be part of our democracy. This is how it's supposed to work. Thanks for taking the time. My name's Tim Probst. I stand for uniting our people and building the middle class. All of this anger and acrimony and darn near hatred that you see on the TV every night is not the way this is supposed to work. And all of us need to stand up and say no more. We're going to work together. We can have different points of view on policy, but we can respect each other and love one another and figure out the right way forward together. And too many people are working really hard and falling further and further behind, and certainly not moving forward. When I'm out talking to people on their doorsteps, I run into a lot of people who say, I keep reading about this economic recovery, but it hasn't happened for me. I've moved in with 2 other families, can't find a job, and I'm a hardworking person, but haven't recovered from the Great Recession. These are important issues. So we need to rebuild the middle class. When I was about 20, I was trying to decide public service or the sciences or journalism. And I had the incredible opportunity and horrible opportunity to go tour Auschwitz. And within 2 hours, I had made up my mind for the rest of my life. Public service is incredibly important. The stakes are incredibly high. I consider it a noble calling, and I wish there were more young people tonight. So when you go home, find a young person and tell them, consider public service, because it matters. Right now, the United States is no longer the #1 economy in the world. China took that mantle several years ago. You might have seen a headline, and then it just went on. Right now, fewer than half of Americans live in the middle class. Some have moved up, but many have fallen down into lower income. That's not how it's supposed to work. And we can't fix this. And the people who are telling you, well, that's just how it is, it can't be done, they're cynics and they're wrong. We're still Americans, we can work together, we can build the strongest economy in the world, great middle class jobs, and a safe and secure place where civil rights are protected and every minority community is not only safe, but welcome and valued and respected and loved in our community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm State Senator Ann Rivers from Washington's 18th Legislative District. I've served the 18th Legislative District for 4 years as senator. Prior to that, I served 2 years in the House of Representatives. I've been a community activist for many years, having served on the boards of Habitat for Humanity, the North Clark County Food Bank, and also the Relay for Life, just to name a few. I'm a former middle school math and science teacher, and people often think I'm insane for loving those kids, but man, that's the best age group ever. And also a former small business owner. I'm here tonight because I don't really care what you think about me, but I care what you think. I've made that my mantle in Olympia, and as such have developed or had regular meetings with the leadership of our caucus, has met with the Commission on Hispanic Affairs so that we can better understand the needs that face that particular community. My district is unique in that we have a significant portion of our constituency that is Eastern European. We have significant populations of Latinos. We have diverse religious groups, the Apostolic Lutherans, and so trying to meet the needs of all of those people is it's quite a task, but it's an important and worthwhile effort to make. We are moving into a time of significant concern in our state. And it's exciting for me to be on the leading edge and to be working on the things that we all care about. For my part personally, I was responsible for $45 million in the budget for career and technical education. Unfortunately, when it went over to the House, there were different priorities and it got pulled out. But was also able to get money in $2 million for the jobs for graduates, which was also a request of the Hispanic Commission. Just in a final note, Congresswoman, hold on one second, please. Congresswoman Herrera Butler really wanted to be here with you tonight, but she is on a plane headed back from DC and just couldn't make the timeline work. So she's disappointed because she cares deeply about this community as well, and wanted me to extend her personal regrets. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Give all the candidates a round of applause, please. We have so many questions tonight, from employment to racism and to voters' rights, to wage and income inequalities, to education, and to the environment. But I am not sure we're going to be able to finish all of that tonight with the amount of candidates here. So I gave you 2 seconds before, but I'm going to pin it down to a second. A second to answer all your questions. Somebody mentioned about the news headlines these days about race. So my first question will be about race from the audience. We'll go to the audience, then we'll come back to a subset of questions they handed over to me tonight. Race and ethnic relations are very much in the news. How do you see your role in this issue, and what will you do to reach out to a diverse constituency to address these issues? How will you reach out to our communities, and what do you think your role is? Start here. Go ahead, 1 second.
Well, in 1 second, I think it's empathy and understanding, and realizing that that white privilege exists, and that just because we think that we can empathize with everyone, we don't. I have as diverse as my background is, I still cannot. I have no idea what it's like to grow up in America Black. I mean, I have a 13-year-old son, and he rides the bus to school, and I have no idea what the parents of 13-year-old black boys who go to school have to worry about, because you see all the stuff in the news, and it crushes me to think that I would have. I mean, my son flies on an airplane to see his mother every summer, and to be able to do that as a white boy, it really crushes me that we don't have that same empathy and understanding for the other groups who don't, the minorities who don't have that freedom. And so the first object we have as leaders is to try to empathize and understand and try to find ways of connecting. And I remember in 2007 when I was supporting the Obama campaign, and I was getting into conversations and trying to get people to understand how important.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It's over a minute. Don't do that next time. Security, please. Okay. Next. Same question.
Well, so we came to America when I was 10 years old, and I have to tell you, this is the greatest nation on earth, because I was able to, at 10 years old, go out to the field and pick 2,000 pounds of blueberries and earn $160 that summer. That's a lot of money for a poor immigrant family that we came to America with nothing. This is such a great country. I continued to earn a living every summer, every break, every opportunity I could, deliver paper, lawnmower, mow lawn, and so forth. So this country rewards hard work. I want that opportunity available to everybody. And I think because of some structural issues, that opportunity unfortunately is not available. And I want to make sure that I want to set a great example. I'm a chemical engineer with an MBA, with a master's degree, and going on earning my doctorate. And I just want to make sure that everybody, minorities particularly, but people who are in poverty, that they are allowed and expected to succeed in this great nation of ours.
Bob, next time I'll actually call security. Please respect your fellow candidates.
Official is to make sure that we create policy And that's ultimately our goal, that we create policy that embraces equality, number one. Second, I believe that as leaders, we need to be a champion and a voice for all individuals. And sometimes that means you speak up when you know that there is injustice, and you do it whether it's popular or not, or whether it's going to get you elected or not. You be a champion. And third, I think it's important in all work that you promote civic engagement. You be a mentor for individuals, especially minorities who are young and inspiring, and you help give them opportunity to learn how to become elected leaders and champions in their own communities. So for me, that is the role of an elected official.
Thank you.
So racism is a conversation I've been having a lot of recently. I've had the opportunity to sit down with many groups ranging from Black Lives Matter Vancouver, candidates across the state that are Black or Latino, and transgender candidates from both sides of the river down in Oregon and here in Washington. And the ultimate lesson that is to be learned here, if you want to change minds on racism, you have to bring everybody to the table. So having a conversation with one person isn't going to cut it. You have to engage everybody from the police department in the area to educators in the area to local and elected officials. Having a conversation around what needs to be done to implement that change, to create opportunity and equality for everybody is ultimately where we come in as local and elected officials.
As a legislator, I think my role would be, first of all, not necessarily just in the work of policy, but also in the area of representation. When I was in the legislature in the past, I was an active member of our Members of Color caucus, a caucus that is shrinking in number, and I would be one
well
of the
beyond reacting to terrible things that happen. We need to start working on proactively bringing all of our minority communities together with everybody, and also with public service and the police. Thank you. When we are proactively preventing the next terrible thing from happening, that's when we're really being smart and we're really getting at root causes. So if you want somebody who addresses root causes and works on prevention, please ask your friends to please vote for Tim Probst for the state senate, and promise I'm just going to stop.
Thank you. Smart man. I tell you, by show of hands, how many of you have helped an African American or Latino in your sphere of influence? Thank you. By show of hands, how many of you have helped a qualified Black person or Latino person? I'm not talking about mediocrity, I'm talking about qualified person in opportunity. By show of hands, please raise your hand. Thank you. We are recording this event. Well, next question. Oh, okay. You see, thank you.
Thank you so much, Promise. I think that when I was elected, I made a commitment that I wanted to be a different kind of leader, someone who would listen to what was on the hearts and minds of the people that they represent, and to carry those issues to me with Olympia and to Olympia to try and make a difference for the people that I represent. And it's had some success, which is very exciting to me. But I think that really our key is our children. There are some old dogs, you guys. As much as we want to, we are never ever going to change how they are. We just have got to make sure that we raise up our next generation to be respectful and to walk in other people's shoes. So I think that those are the things that I look for. I also think that we do have to foster discussion with those old dogs to maybe soften them a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody else, but beside you? Oh, okay, thank you. Just kidding. Our communities face double-digit unemployment. Even when the economy boomed, we still have a lot of our communities unemployed. Let's talk about employment workforce generation. What are your solutions? to ensure that there are intentional efforts to hire qualified minorities. Go ahead.
Well, I'll try to make this quick so I don't get cut off this time, but
Specific, for 2 seconds.
the best way we can do it is by providing good paying jobs like union wage jobs, rebuilding the infrastructure, and providing our kids with the opportunity to let them grow. I don't think we do that by bringing children to the heel and telling them that they need to behave. I think we do it by teaching the people who are in leadership positions how to treat the other people with respect. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, rapid fire. Next, specific, 1 second. Go
Well,
ahead.
So for me, I'm big on apprenticeship, internship, and any kind of a co-op program. I was just shocked that Clark County government here does not have any kind of an apprenticeship program, so I'm starting one right now. And it is just amazing the need and the desires of the people to learn valuable technical skills. And there are people who are earning minimum wage that we could train. These are mostly young people, people of color, that are just really wanting an opportunity to just step right in and be able to earn a middle-class income. Let's see, I got 20 more seconds. Okay, so given that, there are so many opportunities within the labor and industries to take advantage of this apprenticeship program to bring up the younger people into these family wage jobs. And I'm going to push for that in the legislature. I'm going to push for that in my current job as Chief Information Officer for Clark County.
Thank you. Excellent. Next.
When our discipline policies in our public schools disproportionately affect children of color, and our court and corrections system has a problem with policy reflecting that same problem, then we have a real challenge getting access to jobs and housing and all of the other things that can help level the playing field. So the action item I would say on my part is taking what I do every day in public schools, working in my middle school for the last 15 years and seeing these things as they start and down that path, and correcting them with the policies that have been proposed in the legislature and are waiting for an advocate that also has the professional and legislative experience to make those changes.
Thank you. Next.
There are several things that are within the scope of us, people in the State House and Senate. Number one, government does a lot of business with a lot of businesses, and we need to do more and preserve the systems we have that make sure that those businesses include minority-owned businesses, both small and large. Another area is barriers to business startups. All of our applications and fees and all of that sort of thing to become a legal business has to be available in different languages, and we're working to make it a one point of entry so that it's easy and people of different backgrounds find it easy to start their own business, because that's how a lot of immigrant families become successful. And then making sure that in our appointments and in our visible leaders, we make sure we include people that represent all communities.
Thank you. Next.
So in terms of intentional efforts, we have a real problem in our state with equity in K-12 education, and really I think K-20 education. We do not have equity. We don't measure equity, and we don't hold ourselves accountable for equity. So that means that children who don't look like my children are being punished every day at school. And we need to fix that. And if we fix that, we will prepare these talented, capable young people to assume careers. And when they're trying to assume careers, we need to make sure that they're not being discriminated against, because they are right now. If you have a certain surname, employers get two resumes. One says Jamal and one says Julie. Same qualifications. Jamal doesn't get looked at. That's a fact. And we need to work on that. We need to make career and technical education a bigger part of K-12 education and beyond. We need to make community college and four-year college more affordable.
Fantastic.
Thank Thank you. If you go to electtimpropst.com, I have 10 independent reforms, very specific reforms I'm calling for, all of which address this. They're all for working families. 3 of the key ones, and I'm going to get it in under the time too, promise, so keep an eye on me here.
Thank you,
We're going to have the Michael Jordan of world economies, right? The best anywhere, no comparison. This state and this county should be able to do that because we have such a diversity of industries. That means building a job skills economy where the best companies in the world want to grow here because they can't find better people anywhere. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, as we're addressing McCleary and as we're doing education reform, we have to make sure that career planning and adult mentors and business experience and business internships are a critical part of every student's experience in school, because that's how you change lives and help students get ready for good middle-class jobs. And third and finally, we need to make sure that all of this results in a big, giant middle class, so middle class families aren't falling through the cracks. I almost made it. Thank you.
Thank you. I mentioned in my opening comment some of the things that I've done already. We didn't get the $45 million for career and technical ed. I'll be making another run at that and feel hopeful that I'll get that done. Additionally, I am going to be, I've got a number of initiatives that I'm looking at, but I think that chief among them is providing children with the education so that they can take the jobs that Tim's going to bring here. Thank you.
Thank you. We've heard some few words today, equity. How many of you understand the definition of equity? Okay. Let me give you a short answer. Equity is a structural adjustment of systems. Structural adjustment of systems to accommodate current realities and inclusion. What do I mean by that? You remember in the early 90s when men were architects, what did they do? They build buildings. On the men's side, you have about 5 buckets. On the women's side, you just have 1 bucket. Let's take it back to 2016. When you go to old buildings like the stadium, and it's halftime, and everyone is going to the restroom, what do you see? Women line is always very long, right? And men just go in and out, in and out. And when you ask men, why is it that we have women line so long? They will tell you, oh, women are painting their faces and doing all sort of things. But they will not tell you the disparities in the number of what? Buckets. So how do you mitigate that? When you ask men, well, we ought to create space for women to go in and out, the conveniences that men have. They will say, oh, just hire a woman to run the darn thing. Then you hire a woman, and that line never shrank. And you say, oh, women can't run anything. Or till you readjust those buckets. Not just to give women 5 or men 5, no. You have to do difficult things. You measure the usage of women, how many, the demographics and the population of women that go to that ratio. If it's going to take 20 to ensure that just like men go in and out, women that go in and out, that's equity. That is equity, a structural adjustment of systems to accommodate current realities and inclusion. Now you understand that, right? Any question? You have any questions before we move on? Thank you.
Promise.
Yes.
Can you give them maybe a minute to kind of answer? I mean, since we know what equity is,
Yeah.
how would they affect that in our community?
Yes, we'll come back to that. We have a few hours. We're gonna hold them down till 2 a.m. in the morning. Thank you. Let's go back to one of the issues that really concern our communities, that is immigration. I have a question here for one of our biggest partners. What is your stance on comprehensive immigration reforms? How do you feel about supporting state-sponsored immigration actions similar to the actions implemented in the state of California? What is your take on comprehensive immigration? Go, 1 second.
I support comprehensive immigration reform. A lot of people come here looking for a better life. They don't come here to try to steal or to try to change, to make America something else. White people came here a long time ago and made it just what they wanted. It's okay that other people come here now and live the way that they want to live. And one of the things we don't even address when we're so worried about building walls instead of bridges between communities is that over 500,000 people a year come here on airplanes and overstay their visas, yet we're so concerned about 300,000 coming across illegally across the border. That we're not focused on the right things.
Thank you.
I support comprehensive immigration reform. Here's a fact. More people cross back into Mexico than come to America. Isn't that surprising? So why is it that we pay so much attention to the inward migration when more people are leaving the United States than coming in? We need workers in America. We need to be able to have people who can come here safely, legally, and be able to perform the function that they want to do, and then perhaps either become a pathway to citizenship or be able to go back and support their family back in their home country. Many nations have such programs, and even Israel with the Palestinians have such a program. Singapore with Malaysians have such a program. Why can't America have also such a program? And if people want to stay in America and build a prosperous future, they should be allowed to do so as well. So I support comprehensive immigration reform.
Thank you. Yes.
I also wholeheartedly support comprehensive immigration reform. Each one of us are the children of immigrants. Our country is built off the backs of immigrants, and making sure that people, we talk a lot about illegal immigration, legal immigration. Many people don't understand how hard it is to actually immigrate to America. The fact that it can take up to 10 years to just be able to stay here is not what's going to foster our next generation of growth. We need to be making sure that we are making the process simple, actually usable, because these are going to be the future workers, people who are also living here, perhaps illegally, have the opportunity to gain a legal status, to be able to have equal opportunity, and get a pathway to citizenship.
Thank you.
The border is practically more secure than it ever has been. We should make sure it stays that way. And most undocumented immigrants are people fleeing unspeakable dangers that we have instilled on them. So my question is, because of themselves, that's why. Because of the opportunity, that's why. That's why they come here. Anyway.
Thank you.
Well, I too support comprehensive immigration reform, and I was very supportive of Governor Inslee's actions last year, as we probably all recall, when he clearly stated that our state welcomes everyone, and that includes those who are fleeing persecution. I want to continue to support policies that welcome everyone, do not divide people, do not tolerate intolerance. But I also want to add to that, go a step further, that I also believe that we must guard against implementation or the attempt to implement discriminatory policies, as we've seen in other states, particularly Arizona.
Thank you. Fantastic. Yes.
So yes, I absolutely support progressive and comprehensive immigration reform. I've seen it in our schools. Our current immigration policies are dividing families, and many times those families are mixed status. They include citizens, undocumented, and also people with green cards.
And so it's not working. We are tearing families apart. So I believe that we need to make sure that we're addressing both the state and local enforcement of our current federal immigration detainers, and we address that at the state level so that all families can stay together when they're doing everything right and just trying to make a life for themselves.
Thank you. Next.
So I've had many friends that were illegal immigrants back in Colorado. They flock to the area. It's a very Hispanic friendly area, and understanding their story that they're only coming here because of opportunity, because they want to create a life for themselves, is ultimately where we need to be asking the question of what can we do to help further this process. America is not for Americans. America is here to create a vision for the world on how we can help everybody create an equitable society. So absolutely I support comprehensive immigration reform.
Probably not surprisingly, I also support comprehensive immigration reform. But, you know, I come from a Mexican-American family that origins that are rooted in present-day America, and I have a Japanese-American great-grandfather who risked his life to come to this country and then faced World War II, sending 4 of his sons to fight for this nation. I don't understand at what point in time we stopped closing the door to people who were coming seeking the very same vision for freedom that others have come here for generations before, unless we are first Americans.
Woo!
I think we all support the federal immigration reform, but we need to go farther in our state. Our state should not be supporting and enabling enforcement of unfair immigration policies. Most cities have a choice on how far to collaborate with some of the policies that we all know aren't working. And I think that we need to take a policy stand in the legislature against those strategies. And that means profiling. It means our driver's license process needs to be fair. It means we can have fair voting rights. And we need to stand up and do resolutions to our federal government, put pressure on our federal government to stop what they're doing and get serious. They've been talking about it a long time. It's time for them to get it done.
So I do support reform, and I just reject the notion that human beings are illegal. I think the system is broken, and I agree with everything Representative Wiley said. We have things we can do to make things better if we really believe what we say we believe, which is that we value life. That means all lives, you know, it's not just right at the very beginning. It's when it gets hard and difficult. So we need to make good on the words that we say. We need to reform education. We need to work on communities, jobs, all these things. We have to live the golden rule.
We have to live the golden rule. That's one of the most profound things I've heard tonight, and it's so sad that it comes across as a surprise to hear that. That's wonderful. Look, the only reason we don't have comprehensive immigration reform already is because of politicians putting politics ahead of the interests of the American people. It's because of politicians putting politics ahead of the interests of the American economy. Politicians putting politics ahead of basic human dignity. It's wrong, it's ridiculous. Ronald Reagan did comprehensive immigration reform. John McCain and Marco Rubio support it. This is not a partisan issue. It should not be a partisan football. These are people's lives, and we have to take it seriously and do it right. So everybody stand up and speak out for it. There is absolutely no reason we shouldn't have already solved this problem. This is what I mean when I say we need to unite our people and work together, because that's how we get problems solved. You can applaud.
Security, if you go beyond your point next time.
I have had the pleasure of traveling to Eastern Washington and visiting with the farmers who work there or who farm there, and I've heard the struggles that they have in getting folks to come across the border to come and work now. They have said that they know that there's a clampdown. And I think that for us to think that we can do it all without our friends from the South is absolutely ridiculous. So I support reform. I also think that as we move forward, it's really important to be mindful of the folks who want to come here, they want to be here legally. I think we need to make the pathway easier for them to do that. And I also think that we, as citizens, have to be mindful of those who choose to come here and to do us harm. So if you've come here, we've welcomed you, and then you choose to harm the people here, I think it's a privilege to be here in the United States, and I think that you have to follow the laws, and you don't get to kill people and just stay here. So that's a little bit of a departure, but I do think that we need reform. I think we need these workers. And
thank you. Give her a round of applause. Housing is one of the most critical things a human being can lack. Right now, our communities are really under homelessness and lack of housing. Tonight, we want to throw that challenge back to you to give us what you think should be done to mitigate the lack of housing in our communities. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's housing is one piece of a very big puzzle, which includes education. It includes good paying jobs. It's all interconnected into a bigger sphere of things. A child you can't expect a child to have a great education if they don't have anywhere to sleep at night and they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So it is also important that we pay close attention to all of these issues and that we don't defund mental health or housing just to say that we got a bill passed to support education. So we need to take a comprehensive approach to all of it and know the importance of it and know that people coming across the border shouldn't be there to supply our minimum wage jobs or our farm jobs. They should be able to be a part of the economy and to be part of the larger infrastructure.
Thank you. Housing solutions. Go ahead.
$300,000 for median home price in Clark County. This is not for a luxury home, it is for a basic starter home. It is incredible that we're the bedroom community for Portland, Oregon, and people who can afford even higher housing prices are coming here as bargains. I don't want to be like the city of Palo Alto where they say only rich people welcome and not encourage any apartments or any tiny homes. I believe that by changing the zoning laws, we can allow for auxiliary dwelling units, mother-in-law apartments in your house. Do you realize that you can't do that right now, that it's very difficult unless you have already planned it? So we should be allowed to also have high-density housing such as apartments, and be able to make sure that our young people, my boys are 26 years old next month, and they are unable to afford housing. And I want to make sure that all of us can raise our family here and they can stay.
Thank you. Next, 1 second.
We need to be building more homes, and specifically, we need to be building homes that cross all incomes. Right now, we are building McMansions, which is only supporting a very small slice of the community. And so when we're not building homes for people who may be in the lower and middle incomes, those home prices are going to keep going up and up. So we definitely need a housing trust fund. We need to be making sure also, not only prices, but in the discriminatory practices that are going on in our housing in our county. Right now, you can be discriminated against based on the source of income you have. So the fact that maybe you're not getting your income from a paycheck, but even though you have enough to be able to get, say, an apartment, you can be discriminated against. And there are many people who are facing that today, along with increasing a 20-day notice to vacate. There are families right now who are going homeless because of these things, and we need to be addressing them immediately.
Thank you. Next.
The Federal Housing Authority is left over from World War II here in Vancouver. Actually, our city is pretty large considering that we have a housing authority. Also, the housing authority created practically another city in a matter of months in the Second World War. Why can't they do that again? Also, let's invest in the Federal Housing Authority. Let's instead of creating things that we don't really need or want, let's create instead a housing authority that will throw up another house in another city, as a matter of fact. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
This is a complicated issue. In the 1 second that I have to answer, I'm going to attempt to talk really, really fast. I was really pleased to join last year with my Senate Democratic colleagues in proposing a multi-pronged approach to this issue because there's no one silver bullet, there's no one right answer here. What the Bring Washington Home Act, what that bill actually proposed was taking $281 million from our state's rainy day fund because, folks, it's raining. This is a crisis. And what those funds would be directed toward primarily would be rapid rehousing, would be directed toward emergency shelters, behavioral health services, as well as youth services specifically. The bill would have also established a new account, a homeless assistance account, would have also provided additional funding to the existing housing trust fund that we do have in the state. So while that proposal did not advance this past year, I am absolutely committed to continuing to work on this issue and continue to work with my colleagues.
Thank you. Fantastic.
So
Next, please.
I agree with Senator Cleveland. There is no one silver bullet, but I have invested the last 2 years deeply into the affordable housing crisis and finding solutions. One thing we can do at a state level and a local level is ensuring that any development that receives our taxpayer tax incentive, that they include 10 or 20% of every new home to be affordable, automatically building in affordability into every neighborhood. The second thing I would recommend is for landlords who are renting to non-native or non-English speaking families, and they're taking advantage of them. They're raising their rents, they're making them live in unsafe conditions, unhealthy homes. We hold them accountable and we make it illegal for them to let people live in those kind of conditions. So those are two laws I think that will help increase affordability, and those are things I want to do when I'm in Olympia.
Thank you. Next.
So there are two specific actions that I would want to take in that regard. The first, rent caps. A 5% rent increase yearly passed at a statewide level. If we can't pass that indefinitely, at least giving local counties and municipalities the ability to pass that rent cap while they're experiencing a housing crisis much like we are now. Again, we have families that are seeing their rent prices increase 20 to 30%, and that's just wrong. Another thing that we need to do is end no-cause eviction in Washington state. We have to give people more than 20 days notice, and they have to have a real reason to kick you out. If not, at least let the lease expire.
Thank you. Next.
I agree with much of what has been said this evening. I think we also need to make sure that whatever budget items, one of them being the debate around how to fund K-12 education in McCleary, cannot be pitting that funding against other priorities that we have in the community, like the Housing Trust Fund. Additionally, I would say that I think Promise did a nice job of illustrating how equity is not the same as equality. So when we're passing state legislation that impacts housing, we want to make sure that there's enough flexibility and tools for cities and counties to do what their communities need that might be different from what is needed across the state. So while there are policies that the entire state needs, we also need to make sure that communities at the city and county level have the ability to provide equitable policy for their communities that may not be equal to others.
Thank you. Next.
One part of this very complex problem is that the federal government has gotten out of the housing business over the last 30 years, and we've moved to a voucher system, and we have a scarcity of housing stock, and we have unaffordable housing. Several things we need to do at the state level. We need to restore the Housing Trust Fund. We need to renew our document recording fee, which provides some mechanisms for low-income housing. We need to ask for more federal tax credits and more state tax credit programs to provide the financing. I hope that we will be able to adopt the land bank model where the land is owned publicly and people own their own homes on that. And then we have to take care of the people that are not going to be able to work because they're disabled or elderly, and we have to provide supported housing for them that they can afford.
Thank you.
So I agree with a lot of what's been said, and I absolutely agree with the comments about to stop defunding the good programs that we have in our state and on the federal level. The Housing Trust Fund is one of those. Maria Cantwell came down here to talk about that. She's identified, along with Lauren Hatch, that some of these problems that we have, it's not like a lightning strike. These are created over time by choices that the people who work for us make. And they systematically degrade good ideas and good programs that work. And it flies under the radar until it gets to a really crisis point. And that's where we're at now. But we have solutions that work. We know they work, and we should double down on those, give local communities and counties flexibility to see what works for them and reward them for trying to solve the problem. We also need to audit to make sure people aren't being illegally thrown out or discriminated against because they don't have the right surname when they apply to rent an apartment.
Thank you.
I just think what we just saw was an entire panel that gets an A+ on a question. Those were specific, meaningful, knowledgeable answers that actually will make a difference.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thomas, I loved your
1
answer
second.
too.
Thank you.
I would only add that behind homelessness there lies domestic violence, mental health issues, joblessness, substance abuse. We need to see all human beings as deserving of dignity, and the state workers who serve them every day, day in and day out with great professionalism and great heart should never be demonized. They should be supported and respected by our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me lay this out here before we go get to the next question. This forum is to hear you out and to understand where your values lie. This is not about doing something for brown or black people. This is about doing something for our society. Having said that, we're going into education. We have questions here from the audience. I think it's been answered. And it says, what is being done about rising rates? What sort of regulations are in the works? I think we went through that, right? Right? Can I hear you? Okay, we go to education now. What policy will you create to close the opportunity gap for all students of color? What will you do to increase graduation rate for our students of color? Especially, how do you save our kids from the pipeline to jail? How do you reform education? Go ahead.
Well, you've got to start by fully funding it to give opportunity to every child to get the same education that my kids get in the Hawkinson School District is an amazing education, but that isn't the same equitable education that's available to them in all parts of the state of Washington, and that's something that has to be addressed. Another thing that needs to be addressed is the opportunities that go with the children that have different needs. I have one child who is on an EIP or IEP, his challenge is reading, and I have another child who is in all AP honors classes. They don't have the same skill sets. They have different ways of looking at things, and we have to give those opportunities to the children as they're developing. Because not every child is going to be leaving high school ready to go to college, and that might not be their, I like working on trucks, I like getting my hands dirty. A lot of people do, and there's no reason why they should be required that their next step is 4 years of college. Sometimes we can get them activated into skill centers, learning other abilities, getting them credits for industries that they can be ready to go to work when they're getting out of school.
Let me say this. In the budget of the state of Washington, ESL actually is 0.11. I mean, it's just non-exist. Go ahead.
Well, we first must fully fund education as required by the Constitution of Washington State, number one. So the funding must be there. Number two, we must have teachers that can do what's called differentiated classroom, meaning that all children are not produced ready to learn, ready to read when they come to school, right? So we need to make sure that the teachers are equipped and trained to inspire the kids to learn where they're at and be able to look at the growth of the kids rather than looking at some standard arbitrary metric that has no bearing on many of the kids. Number three is that we must have a society where we are respectful of the teachers. This is the only nation on earth where I have ever been where the teaching profession is not respected. In every other nation, the word guru, sensei, 선생님, is a show of respect. In America, it's not. So let's change that culture.
Thank you.
When I was in middle school and high school, I was part of an amazing program called the Gear Up program. And basically it was for low-income families. And what it provided us was the ability to have a place to go after school, to develop our skills, to, as Promise said, there is a big structural bureaucratic process when it comes to obtaining a higher education. And so we had the tutors, we had career planners, we had people that helped us fill out applications for scholarships and applications to universities, and many people from minority backgrounds, from low-income backgrounds, were able to navigate the process into applying and getting accepted to higher education institutions. And we also, through grants, were able to have scholarships to pay for those needs. So I would like us to be incentivizing more of those types of programs, giving more grants to help people navigate that process, because that is going to help all of us.
Thank you.
Funding is a given, and I was honored to be a part of the DREAM Act, which happened in Olympia 2 years ago. We need to, well, I would end the education through the prison pipeline. I would just end it, and it needs to happen also with training, because that is what's going to happen with our teachers and with our administrators also. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have to start at birth, and we have to implement, in my opinion, universal pre-K early learning programs. We made a good start in the legislature a couple of years ago. I was really pleased to be one of the sponsors of the early learning bill that did pass. We have more work to do. Yes, we do have to fully fund education. That goes without saying. We also need to look beyond K-12. We have to continue to support furthering education and skills and training for those who graduated from high school. I too was one of the proud sponsors of the Washington DREAM Act. Ultimately, on the Senate floor, when I cast my vote for that bill, the name of the bill had been changed to the Real Hope Act. That is the actual piece of legislation that passed, but I was very proud to support.
Thank you for your work. Next.
I absolutely agree. Early learning is a key, and I think we need to expand our dual language and bilingual instruction for early education and all the way through secondary. I also believe that in all of our schools we need family engagement coordinators. We need an individual that is dedicated to reaching out to minority families and bringing them into their students' learning. I think that social emotional support will help ensure that any barrier to that student's learning is removed. We're doing that both in the Evergreen and Vancouver School District. It's expanding throughout Clark County, and I think that needs to be a community schools model, and that framework needs to be taken statewide. And I will do that if I'm elected this coming November.
Thank you. Next.
One very important aspect that we have to take a look at is how students in our schools are being disciplined. Oftentimes you'll hear stories of students being handcuffed, students are being assaulted, sometimes by their teachers. We need to ensure that Black students, minority students, even some white students aren't afraid to go to school. We have to make sure that they feel accepted in an environment where they're able to learn. Another focus would be directly creating classes that can help put students on a path that they feel would be more their choice. In my high school, we had 3 different classes based on what you wanted to do after high school. There was college prep classes, there were classes that provided you information on trades and technical schools, and then there were classes that provided you information on how to directly enter the workforce. So providing diverse opportunity in terms of education for students on the options that they have after high school is going to be an important step on ensuring we get people to the right place.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to call security. So, go ahead.
I think that there are several things we need to do. We need to stop the misuse of testing in our schools. When we use tests the wrong way, we end up with policies that are championed by organizations like Stand for Children that would have failed 3rd graders if they were not able to read, when really we hadn't funded a school system that would provide an education so those students could read by 3rd grade. So
go to candidates' closing remarks. Let me drop some data on your lap. For the next 10 years, there's a growing influx of minority voters in this region. So the earlier you get behind our communities, the better it is for your business and political prospects. On that note, we're going to go to candidates' final statements. Make it half a second.
Well, thank you for having me tonight. I appreciate it. My name is Eric Holt. I'm running in the 18th. And rather than go on about why you should vote for me, I just want to take a minute to thank Ann Rivers for coming out here tonight. This is obviously not a really Republican-friendly forum, and I think it took a lot of guts for her to show up for this. Even I would have liked to have her to stay so we could hear her more thoughts, but I think we should give her a hand for showing up tonight.
Well, so my name is Sam Kim. I'm running for state representative, District 17, position number 1. You know, some people said we need to build bridge figuratively and really, and so I want to build bridges across the aisle and across the river. I am for fully funding education, for creating jobs, and building that infrastructure as well as safety and security. So please support me as we go up to Olympia to change the culture of Clark County for the better and change the culture of the state.
Thank you. Half a second, closing statement.
So you heard the values that I'm coming into this campaign from, and so if these are things that reflect what you believe in, we could really use your support. From now until Election Day, we're going to be going out, talking to individuals, hearing what their needs are, people from all walks of life around our county. So you can go to justinoberg.com